And now we are at episode 4 of The Falcon and Winter Soldier. And things are finally starting to really get going. I feel like I'm saying that with every episode. It's starting to get things going now. This episode was actually very fantastic. Unlike the last episode, which still was good, had a lot of different settings and kind of a lot of things going on, maybe too much for one episode. This one actually brought things down a little bit. There was less going on. It was a lot more focused, and all the characters are starting to meet one another, and there's a lot of fights. There's a lot of complicated relationships and complicated characters. So I think this is the episodes that's really starting to make the whole show. So as we saw in like the last episode, some fighters from Wakanda showed up, and they're kind of tracking Bucky, which makes sense. They gave him the White Wolf moniker and also gave him a new arm, so they kind of have like an interest in him still, as he has an interest in them. They show a flashback scene from years prior that shows how he kind of was able to become strong enough to resist the words and resist becoming the Winter Soldier again. So I thought all that stuff was really cool. The weird thing is, it doesn't really become a huge part of the episode because it's in there, but then we don't bring it up ever again. And for the rest of the episode, we're kind of focused on different characters. I feel like they needed to put that scene in at some point, and why not have it in the episode where they're going to introduce these people from Wakanda, which is another thing. You know, we see them, and we see that they're tracking Bucky and Sam because they freed Zemo from prison, and then we kind of forget about it. Well, I mean, we forget about them. They show up later for a fight, but then that's really it. They don't have a huge part in this episode. Not in the way that cliffhanger from the last episode made it seem. But it still works. It's really cool to see them, especially when they were fighting John Walker, the new Captain America, beat the hell out of him, which I thought was pretty awesome. John Walker is starting to become the character that I think a lot of people were expecting him to be, and what I thought he would be, somewhat misunderstood. Definitely not the new Captain America, but not going too far quite yet. He just does things differently from Steve, but there was still this, bit of him where it's he could have some redemption or maybe learn more from the job. I was wondering if they were going to go in a little more interesting direction with him rather than just make him a straight up villain or, antagonist, I guess. And this episode, I think, kind of sealed his fate. It was nah, he's totally, misunderstanding his role as Captain America, the kind of duty that was placed before him, and kind of having a much darker side to the Captain America role. He beats one guy to death. It's crazy. It's kind of a parallel to what Steve was doing to Tony in Civil War. But in this one, it's he finishes the job and he doesn't resist, hold back, and the only thing that he seemed worried about was people were filming him. He does take the super soldier serum in this episode, which, I thought that was kind of, it's like this, he doesn't feel good enough himself to be doing what he's doing, even though he has all the accolades. He's got the Medal of Honors. He's got this years of experience, but he still doesn't feel like he's good enough because there are people out there who are better than him. When the people from Wakanda beat him up, he even mentions, they weren't even super soldiers. You can tell that he's got a huge ego about himself, and I just really like, kind of the comparisons between him and Steve, and just kind of different walks of life and how they approach this role. I mean, Steve showed up and, he was never intending to become better than anybody else. He just wanted to be his best self and join, the army regardless of any flaw that he had because he wanted to overcome them and help. And I think that's interesting because here it's this guy does have the strength. He does have, all the history of defending the country and doing his job and, obviously doing that very well, but he still doesn't feel good enough. And, takes the serum, which I guess is meant to mess with your brain, but there's also just this fact that, the situation at hand, he had just seen his friend get killed. Battlestar is killed in this episode, which I thought was unfortunate. I was kind of thinking it'd be cool if they brought him back for later movies as a new side character, but at the same time, it's hey, this show's taking chances. It's killing off characters that were established in the comic books, and they're not necessarily going to just keep everybody around because, hey, oh, they're in the comic books, so let's keep them around. But it torments uh, John Walker in that moment, and yeah, he just goes on the rage about it. Um, and I feel like this episode still, it focused a little bit on Bucky in a way, just because of the introduction scene, but again, most of the focus ended up being on John Walker, who did meet up with the group. They see that Zemo is free from prison, kind of don't do anything about it. Like, they don't seem as mad about it as they should. It's just weird to me that Zemo's walking around free. Like, I don't know, wasn't he a pretty well-known international terrorist? I don't know. But basically, John Walker, Battlestar, team up with Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Zemo to locate Carly. Now, Carly, who's part of the Flag Smashers. Is that correct? I keep screwing this up. I keep thinking it's either Flag Stompers or the Flag Smashers. And yeah, it's the Flag Smashers. Um, yeah, I got that name wrong for the last episode. Madripoor. I was saying like Mondori. I mean, I'm bad at all this stuff. We're starting to hit those bits of comics where I just have no knowledge beyond what I'm seeing in the movies before me as it's happening. Yeah, Madripoor. So I couldn't say that name at all last time. But yeah, the Flag Smashers, Carly's kind of leading them, and I feel like they're kind of doing with her what they did with John Walker. They kind of are following a similar path, coming from different sides of the aisle, in their approach, different positions of power, but both have kind of extreme ways of taking care of business, ways that are not necessarily in line with what, someone like Steve would have been thinking. And in these episodes, Sam and Bucky are definitely in the middle ground, I guess on both ends now, they've killed people. But my kind of weird thing is, I'm wondering, and I have a feeling they're doing this, but I really feel like they're trying to, because Carly is meant to be misunderstood, but she's also meant to be this young person who maybe doesn't realize the damage that she's doing by trying to take care of things in her own way. I've read online discussions where it's like a lot of people have compared her to, certain current events and how, what she's doing is actually right. And she has every right to go after these people who are not giving out the supplies like they should be, not helping to, for those who were displaced, help them to find their place in the world. Now that all these people have appeared 5 years later. And so they're saying that she's kind of in the right, but I don't know. I feel like the show is kind of coming from this approach that, both ends are wrong. Carly kills Battlestar, and now it's like, oh, it wasn't on purpose, it was an accident. And, John Walker goes on the rage and then kills someone else who is also a Flag Smasher, but not Carly. That Flag Smasher was also a huge fan of Captain America, so there's kind of that double irony there where it's like, it's ironic that Captain America is killing someone in front of everyone with phones. Usually someone like that wouldn't kill everyone, but also the fact that he killed someone who's a big fan of Captain America. But I feel like with Carly's character specifically, they're giving her such like a kindness and a lot of excuses for her, to the point where I feel like they're going to try to give her a redemption arc in the end. And I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if I really want to see this character necessarily get redeemed. I'm not saying, that she should get some kind of fate where, it's prison or death or anything like that. I'm certainly okay with having like villains or antagonists that kind of have a complexity to them. I mean, Zemo's in this show. I really have enjoyed him a lot, but he's also killed people, and he wasn't necessarily a good person throughout his life, but he kind of has an interesting angle to everything, and you can kind of sometimes agree with him. And I feel like they're doing the same with Carly, but I'm kind of suspecting and kind of worried that they're going to make her like a hero in the end, and that she'll be like joining the Avengers, and they aren't going to just keep her, in the same position as Zemo, where she's like kind of an international villain, as they would say, but she just has kind of complex motives, and maybe Falcon and Winter Soldier won't be going after her necessarily, but she's on the run and just doing what she believes is right causes. But I feel like, though, they're going to try to do this redemption thing where they're going to try to turn her into pure hero. I'll give the show credit that they seem to be making things a little more complex than that, so maybe that's not what they're going to do. But as of right now, it's like I really just don't want it to be in the end where it's like, you know what, she's a hero, you know, she just misunderstood. I'm like, well, she killed people, so I don't know, and she killed people that were like defenseless, and it's. I also wonder too, like the group, the global was it the Global Reparation Council? I think that's the name of it. I don't know. It seems like that group. I wonder if they're gonna pull a fast one where like, oh, they're actually Hydra, so that all those people she killed, technically, doesn't make her bad. But I don't know. It's like I feel like that's a cop out because she didn't know that, and we're not supposed to know that yet. And I don't know. I really feel like they're gonna do something where they try to make her a hero, and since she's got the super soldier serum, I'm like, I don't know. I feel like they're. I mean, I feel like they're gonna end up. I don't know. I was just thinking throughout the episode how they were giving so much humanity to her, but kind of refused to do so for John Walker's character because, you know, he's complex, but I feel like they were trying to remove any humanity from him and while giving it to Carly, even though they're portrayed as people on the opposite side, you know, sides of the aisle. And I feel like with her relationship with Sam, I feel like it's gonna be something where it's like, here, you take the shield, and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that. So a little conflicted at the moment with where the show's maybe headed, but I love what they did with John Walker's character. I think, you know, it's excellent. It makes me really hate him, and looking forward to his demise. um, but yeah, I think it really picked up with this episode. It's very gruesome. It's probably some of the most brutal stuff I've seen in the MCU, and yeah, like I said, it's just weird that, you know, Wakanda was introduced and then kind of didn't play too much of a big part in this episode. But we still get to see Zemo, the way he kind of works, and he's just kind of excellent with his sneaking around and fooling people and how he gets gets everybody where they need to go. I think that's really cool. Yeah, I forgot to mention Carly also threatens Sam's family, so I don't know how I feel about that. And then it's meant to be like, oh, I wouldn't have actually hurt them. It's like, well, I don't know if we know that. I mean, you killed Battlestar. I know it was on accident, but it's like, I don't know, you still did it. You also killed a bunch of people that were tied up in a building. I don't know. I just feel like we'll see what they do. The show has made everything complex and everything's not going to be so black and white in the end. And, you know, hero versus villain, I think there's going to be a little more to it, but we'll see what they end up doing. Looking forward to the next few episodes.